Good morning, everybody. Once again, I apologize for not being able to be here live with you today. I did have a meeting at my high school to discuss e-learning going forward with those students, so not able to be here live this morning for this, but I'm happy to be here, at least in this video format, and go over today's lecture. So basically what we talked about yesterday, we did finish up the 10 most asked questions regarding a job interview. And we kind of got into, what you should do in the interview. And that's what I want to kind of finish up today is discussing those things. So yesterday we had finished up talking about, not skipping the small talk, making that connection with the interviewer so that they remember you later, and assessing your surroundings so that you can kind of engage in that small talk. We talked about, if they have a, diploma on the wall there from a certain university that you're familiar with, maybe you even went there, using that as a connection, something like, hey, I went there, I went to this great place called Joe's Pizza. You remember Joe's Pizza? Yeah. And that gives you something to connect about. But again, don't overdo it. Don't make it, an hour-long conversation on that. It's just 1 to 2 sentences to get out there just to make that connection with them, build a little bit of rapport. Hell, it actually helps you relax a little bit because you're talking to a person rather than, someone who's interrogating you. So the next tip I'll give you in regards to this is slow down. And I kind of referred to this yesterday as one of my own personal weaknesses. When I get nervous, I talk fast. And sometimes I feel like people can't understand me. The good news is people have never said anything to me about that, indicated, whoa, slow down a little bit. But in my head, that's what I feel like. My heart's pumping, I'm nervous, and I just feel like I have all this nervous energy. And so I go fast. And the best piece of advice I give you on that is just slow down. I mean, if you're like most job candidates, you'll be a nervous wreck, at least on the inside. And one result of all that adrenaline is that you may talk more quickly than normal, and that's going to cause all your words to jumble together. If you find your mouth moving 100 miles per hour, force yourself to take a breath and calm down. And that's where a phrase like, they asked a question, instead of just jumping around it and talking real fast and giving an answer to the question, do something like, that's a good question. Take a breath. And then that gives you time to sort it out. Plus, you look very considerate, like you're actually thinking about, okay, what would be a good answer to this based on my experience? Now, it's just a breath and then respond. Don't sit there and stare at them or at the floor or something for a minute or two. And then they think, what's going on? This person, remember, we asked him a question. So it does no good to give the perfect answer, though, if the hiring manager can't understand a word of it. So slow down, be considerate, and try to get that answer out. Give yourself a moment to compose your thoughts before responding, then speak clearly and at a comfortable pace. Try to maintain as natural a tone as possible. Take another breath if you start to speed up again. And again, watch your body language. Some of these little nervous tics we're not even aware of, but we still have to be very careful of. And this is where I'm saying taking notes, even just doodling a little bit will help you do that, to maintain some composure, get rid of some of those nervous tics because you're releasing that nervous energy into something that's actually somewhat productive or at least looks productive. Now, you've had the interview. You've done great, I hope, after the interview. You've shook their hand as you've left, and you've said thank you to each member of the interview committee. And now what? Do you just sit around and wait for the job? Well, remember, like I said, this is an advertising venture. You're out there advertising and marketing your business, which is your labor and skills. And so you want to keep your business's name, just like any good advertiser, out there. So when people think of that product, their need for that labor and skill, that your name is the one they connect it with. And so to do so after the interview, a good way to do that is to send them a thank you note. So taking the time to say thank you after a job interview not only is good interview etiquette, it reinforces your interest in the position. Use your thank you letter as well to address any issues and concerns that came up during the interview. And you could also consider your thank you as a follow-up sales pitch. Restate why you want the job, what your qualifications are, how you might make contributions to the organization, and so on. Your thank you letter is also the perfect opportunity to discuss anything of importance that you didn't answer as thoroughly as you would have liked during the job interview. And keep in mind, though, that your thank you note should be brief and to the point. A couple of brief paragraphs are plenty. You don't want to write a really long letter that they have to spend time reading because they don't have the time. So just a couple little points in there, just a quick read so that your name's still fresh in their memory. So plan to send out your thank you letters or thank you notes as soon as possible, preferably within 24 hours after your interviews. If time is of the essence, like they're going to make a decision tomorrow, well, you don't really have 24 hours to put something in the mail and get to them. It is appropriate to send an email thank you letter or to make a thank you phone call. The phone call within reasonable times, obviously. So here's a sample thank you letter. Dear Mr. Miss Last Name, it's very enjoyable. It was very enjoyable to speak with you about the assistant account executive position at the Smith Agency. The job as you presented it seems to be a very good match for my skills and interests. The creative approach to account management that you described confirmed my desire to work with you. In addition to my enthusiasm, I will bring to the position strong writing skills, assertiveness, and the ability to encourage others to work cooperatively with the department. My artistic background will help me to work with artists on staff and provide me with an understanding of the visual aspects of our work. I understand your need for administrative support. My detail orientation and organizational skills will help to free you to deal with larger issues. I neglected to mention during my interview that I had worked for 2 summers as a temporary office worker. This experience helped me to develop my secretarial and clerical skills. I appreciate the time you took to interview me. I'm very interested in working for you and look forward to hearing from you about this position. Sincerely, your signature and then your type name. And you can kind of see what's going on in here. She again reinforces, here's my interest in the job. I really want this job, not just a job. The way you describe the job, I think I would be a perfect fit for it. Here's where I am really strong and would be able to help you guys out. And here's some strengths that we really weren't able to get into in the interview that I also can add to my ability to successfully fill this position. Now, what's happening while they're considering the position? Well, what's happening is they're out there, they're researching you, particularly in today's social media intensive age. And this is where, especially as a high school student, you need to start, especially as a high school junior, you need to start controlling or branding your image on social media. Social media for you after your junior year is no longer a place where I'm just going to record fun stuff and throw it out there. And I don't care if it's Snapchat and it disappears after 30 seconds or what. It doesn't matter. If it's on the internet, it's there forever. And you guys should know that. People have ways of recording what's on Snapchat and keeping it, and it gets passed around. You've probably done it yourself for other things, that goofy things you've seen your friends do or other people do. It's out there forever. And so you have to be very careful about this stuff, because you might be a 17-year-old junior, and now you're 22. You're out there applying for a job, and it may seem like an eternity for you. You've been through high school and college. You're much more mature, but it's only been 5 years in real time. And an employer's going to go look out there and go, look what 5 years ago, look what this person did. Have they really matured that much? Are they really that kind of employee that we want, that will reflect on what our values are, that people won't go, oh my God, this person works there, I wouldn't shop there. So you have to start controlling what is out there and being responsible and smart enough about what you put out there regarding these things. So a Twitter photo of a student making an obscene gesture with liquor bottles in the background. A Facebook posting of a student at a party holding what appears to be a joint. A blog rant using profane language against another student. Thus begins the typical Saturday morning of a private college advisor I spoke with, Googling her prospective students to see what would appear. And these are the things that she saw just in one morning. And these social media postings would likely have admissions officers throwing a student's file into the rejection pile, let alone an employer. Yet, for some reason, kids just don't seem to grasp that what you post on Facebook, Twitter, blogs, and YouTube is forever. It is subject to being seen by everyone. So according to a recent survey by Kaplan Test Prep, 27% of college admissions officers say that they Google applicants, and 26% check their Facebook profiles during the admissions process. That data is a little bit dated. I put that out there around 2013. So you can imagine in the past 8 years that has gone and exploded, and probably is a much higher percentage. And certainly they're probably looking at things other than Facebook as well. A whopping 35% of admissions reps said they reviewed something on these sites that negatively affected a student's chances of being accepted. And since last year, that figure has nearly tripled. The reviews don't end with admissions departments. Sports teams, coaches in particular, if you're looking for that athletic scholarship, seem to like to check out potential athletes. And no one is tracking yet if scholarship committees are Googling applicants, but you could almost assume in today's media intensive age that they probably are. So why do they do it? Why would an employer do this? Colleges and coaches don't want to invite trouble onto their campuses and teams, and neither does an employer want to invite trouble onto this. The student is brazen enough to post a picture drinking alcohol as a minor or smoking pot illegally is not an attractive prospect. Officials want responsible students who will obey the rules. And a student who displays an image as a party boy or girl at a young age may also be viewed as a risk for attrition. If we invite you into the college, are you going to drop out because you're partying too much and not focused enough on your grades? That's what is meant by attrition. So even after you're accepted at college, you put your matriculation, your graduation at risk with questionable postings. So matriculation is your actual attendance at the college and working your way through to graduation. So you're a high school senior, you've been admitted, but you haven't started attending yet, and all of a sudden you post bad things on social media, you might not even get the chance to attend. So colleges can and will rescind acceptances based on illegal or unethical behavior. And if you think your privacy settings will protect you, think again. How does a company like Facebook, Instagram, I know they're the same company, Snapchat, Twitter, how do they make money? And yes, there's a good degree of advertising that goes on, but a lot of money is made by the selling of data. And if, they'll advertise, we have these privacy settings you can check. We won't share this data, that data, if you check this. But have you noticed that they change their privacy settings pretty frequently? And that's so they can open up this data and be able to sell it. So your privacy settings are not the best way, really, to manage what information people can see out there. You don't know who you're letting in. You probably don't even know half your Facebook friends if you have Facebook. I know some people, how can you have 1,000 people that you're that close to? So you have to be very careful about these things. And Twitter now poses even more of an issue. So what is the best way to use Facebook, Twitter, and other social media sites during the college admission process and after? First, your posting should reflect who you are in a positive manner. Pictures should be of you, your family, friends, sports, performing in visual arts, etc. Rants should be about your favorite activities, political and social passions, family vacations, camp, the latest goal you scored, things like that. Don't make them about a personal level or racial or religious. Those are all very bad things to go on a rant about. You should join the Facebook pages of colleges you're interested in to follow news, connect with existing students, and get admissions advice. And finally, after you are accepted to college, Facebook can be a great way to meet fellow students before you get to campus, maybe even find a roommate. Quite simply, just stay away from any references to drugs, alcohol, sex, bullying, cheating, lying. Those things can be frowned upon and be used as evidence against you in any event in the future. And be very cautious about pictures that are posted by others which tag you in questionable circumstances. For example, this picture right here, you'll notice the young man in the back. Here we have a lot of scantily clad women in somewhat sexually suggestive poses. The guy in the back's holding up chocolate syrup. One can only imagine what that is being referenced as. And he's chugging what appears to be a beer. This is a high school party. What am I supposed to think about these individuals in a picture like this? Now, it used to be that job candidates were just judged on their resumes. That's the only information that a prospective employer really had. The cover letter and references before the in-person interview. But now with social media, job candidates are being fully examined before even stepping foot into a human resource department. They're going out, they're doing their due diligence with a prospective employee, and they're researching online about that person. And some college students might find themselves at a disadvantage, or some high school students, depending on when their job search begins. So according to a survey of recent grads by online privacy company Abine Incorporated, despite the fact that 69% of the class of 2013 doesn't yet have a job lined up, only 16% are proactively improving their web presence. What's more, 60% of graduates are not concerned about their online profiles affecting their ability to secure or keep a job, and experts say a candidate's online presence and the content they post can make or break a job opportunity. Your digital footprint, what's out there on the internet, says a lot about you, and it's extremely accessible. And the majority of employers are checking it and doing their due diligence on you, just like you should be doing on them when you're applying for a job, says Sarah Downey, privacy analyst at Abine. Also, look up your name in conjunction with any risk words. So if you've been arrested, put your name plus arrest or criminal, because those are the types of searches that employers are likely to run anyway. Tip number 2, and we've already talked about this, don't rely on your privacy settings. While it's important to understand privacy settings for individual social networking sites, using good judgment is paramount to trying to conceal certain posts and pictures, says Kimberly Baxter, Career Service Manager at Bryant and Stratton College Online. Students are wise to keep in mind that once something is up on the internet, there is always a chance a potential employer will find it, privacy settings or not, she says. Privacy settings on different networks are prone to frequent change and can create a false sense of security that posts and pictures are kept under wraps, warns Downey. And we've already talked about that's not necessarily true, because they want to sell your data. That's how they're making the majority of their money, actually. Social networks do a good job of making you feel like you're limited in your network, that only your friends can see what you're posting, and that's not the case. Tip number 3. Remove every potentially inappropriate post and picture. So while 90% of survey respondents claim to be cautious about their online posts, 35% have posted comments containing profanity, more than 30% have posted comments or pictures about alcohol, and 7% have posted content about illegal behavior. So while students and grads may want to post photos of personal and social interactions on their page, employers are looking to see if candidates have a good sense of what should be public versus private, says Shama Kabani, CEO of the Marketing Zen Group. A lot of what this can indicate to an employer is a sense of judgment. What is your sense of judgment? Do you lack it, or do you have a strong sense of what's appropriate and what's not? And how does that fit into a corporate culture, she says. Tip number 4, keep language and grammar in mind. While grads should refrain from posting about polarizing or controversial topics such as religious or political discussions while on the job hunt, posts that show critical thinking and written persuasion skills can be in a candidate's favor as long as they're done well, says Pete Kazani, president of talent acquisition company TalentBit. Think of your Facebook comments and tweets as miniature writing samples that people will use to judge your critical thinking and communication skills. Are you spelling things wrong and making grammatical errors? Or are you putting forth compelling arguments and insightful commentary? He says. The latter is what an employer will want to see. So it's essential that grads omit posting negative opinions about any previous or current internship or work experience. And we kind of already discussed that when we talked about talking in the job interview. Are you posting things that are critical of someone that someone might know? It's a small world again, and so you never want to say things like that, whether or not it was an ideal position or company or anything. If you get fired from a job, or you interned at a place where you really wanted a position and it didn't pan out, the last thing you want to do is say, I hate this company, because employers have to be careful about what sorts of things they're willing to be okay with, Kibani says. You really should always keep in mind that your networks are not a place for you to vent. In other words, if you go out there and you oh, I hate this company and this place, then what are you saying about the employer? And if he lets that go, how many other employees are going to start posting things, and then it becomes an all-out, nobody has any respect for the company, nobody wants to work anymore, the customer service goes down, and all of a sudden that employer is losing money. There's a great example of this. There was a young lady who had just gotten a job. She was 16, her first job, and she posted on one of the social media sites her holding her uniform and how ugly is this uniform, and she's going to hate working at this place. And her prospective boss, before she even came in for her first shift, saw this post, texted her and said, well, you don't have to worry about coming in. You don't have to worry about wearing that ugly uniform. And so she lost the job before she even showed up on that first day. So what should you do to clean up your social profile? Social media is a great tool, don't get me wrong. It allows students to glean much more information about colleges, employers than ever before. However, it also makes you far more vulnerable than in past generations, because admissions officials and prospective employers peer inside your personal lives and draw conclusions about your character and your indiscretions. And you might think, well, I'm going to keep it private, I'm going to put it password protected, but you know what? Some employers are bringing you in and saying, would you please sign on to your Facebook profile or your Snapchat or something? We just want to look through it. And they'll make you sign on right there. And if you don't sign on, you say, no, I'm not going to sign on to my social media. Well, guess what? We're not going to give you a job then. So if you really want that job, you're kind of stuck doing those things. And no, it is not illegal. So the next time you log on, think about if you are comfortable with college admission reps or employers viewing your latest picture or posting on social media. So you've probably had your Facebook account since 6th grade and Instagram last year, but it's important to think of your social media presence for your own professional and personal brand. And here's some tips to make sure you're representing your best self on and offline. In other words, branding yourself so that when people think of you, they think of this particular image. Number one, be yourself. Use your name or something equally important for your username. So professionally, your @babygirlxo won't cut it. Okay, if I'm going to hire you and so I'm looking up your email address, or I'm going to email you about a job interview, and your email address is babygirlxo@gmail. Okay, well, that's kind of bizarre. That's not very professional. Matter of fact, if you look at my website, what's my website name? What's my email? It's Curtis Klein. So just be yourself, make it a professional, go out there and reserve your name as soon as possible, maybe a couple numbers after it, but just be yourself. Now's the time to start branding yourself, and use this username for every platform. So if anybody Googles you or wants to reach you across any platform, it's all the same. So Facebook, Twitter, email address, etc. It's also good for your search engine optimization, or SEO, and Google results to have the same username, because then that's what consistently comes up and you have some control over what actually comes up. If your username is taken, try a middle initial or a favorite number. Number two, own your name. If you have a username, that's great. Now, buy that username, .com. Again, if you look at the slides, if you try to reach them online, they're all located at curtisklein.com. Your brand and reputation is important. Make sure you actually own it online so that someone else, another Curtis Klein, is not out there, posting about his illegal activity, and then people are associating that with you. So even if you don't do anything right away, it's one of the best $10 you'll ever spend just to reserve the name. Therefore, no one else is using it and putting things that might be detrimental to you out there. Number three, get LinkedIn. LinkedIn is kind of a Facebook for professionals to network through. If you don't have a LinkedIn account, you can get one as a high school student, but I would just kind of leave it blank. I wouldn't go out there and try to build a professional persona as a high school student, because other professionals are going to look at it as, that's kind of weird, that's kind of amateurish, it is kind of a cliquey thing. So LinkedIn's an awesome tool to look for jobs and get recommendations from professors and past employers. And start building your professional network so you can reach out to those contacts when you're on the job hunt. Get real headshots for your LinkedIn profile. It's not Facebook. You don't go out there and, oh, here's where I look best on the beach. No, this is professionals. And so you want to look as professional as possible, and getting a real professional headshot just adds to that professional aura that you want to project. That photo of you in Mexico from spring break just is not an acceptable LinkedIn headshot. So invest in professional headshots or ask a camera savvy friend to help. It's important to have a few to choose from for different social media sites. Number 4, check your privacy settings. Facebook, Twitter, other sites, they change their privacy policies often so they can have access to more data that they can then sell to marketers. So take time every few months, go through your settings, make sure you're comfortable with them. Number 5, the grandma rule, and I think this is a very important rule. Nothing online is private. So use the grandma rule before posting. Ask yourself, would I want my grandma to see this? And maybe some of you have some kind of wild, out there, ex-hippie grandparents. I don't know. But when I say grandma, I'm picturing the little old lady who's, sitting at home baking cookies and crocheting and knitting, who goes to church every Sunday. That's the kind of grandma I'm talking about. Would you want that grandma to see what you're posting out there? So with many parents and grandparents on Facebook now, chances are someone in your family is seeing this stuff anyway. Number 6, picture your boss. Think of your future boss. 77% of recruiters Google job applicants, and I'm sure it's even more now. Make sure what's showing up are things you're proud of and not, your latest picture at a party or something like that. Number 7, no drama. Keep controversy off your wall. If there's controversy on your social media, then that's probably controversy you're going to bring into the workplace. And that's not something that I want in the workplace. I want to focus on work. So political, racial, or religious jokes, they just don't belong on social media or many other places. And they're really opening me up to a lawsuit if I would bring you in with those things. You don't want to offend your potential boss and never even interview, besides that. Number 8, use Facebook as a resume. Use Facebook's job history to make online resume. Add jobs, internships, volunteer experiences to your Facebook job history. Also add in milestone on your timeline for your study abroad, an award you won, or other accomplishments. Post about your hobbies or interests. Just make sure they're appropriate. Beer pong is not an interest. It's not a hobby. It's something you do to get drunk, basically. And number 9, make a website. Invest in an online portfolio or website. And if you're not a developer, there's no problem. $10, almost all these things like Wix is very popular, GoDaddy, they all have website builders on them that you can use to build a pretty professional looking website. And a website doesn't have to be 100 pages and lots of clicks and links. It can be one page with just your picture and information on there, but it's something that you control. So sites like CarbonMade or Visify offer free online portfolios that are pretty easy to create and manage. Update your online portfolio with class projects, volunteer experience, and internships as you add them to your resume as well. So keep that up to date so people have a quick link to get to you. And put that on top of your resume as well, that you have this quick link. For me, on mine, I added videos of me teaching so that people could get a feel for, okay, here's what me as a teacher with classroom students is like. So that's all I had for today. Once again, I apologize for not being here live. We'll be back live tomorrow. But if you have questions about what we went over today, feel free to ask them in the chat function, to text me, or to put on the Facebook page in the comments, and I'll be sure to address those questions and carry the discussion forward. So otherwise, enjoy the day. It looks like it's going to be a beautiful one, and I will see you live again tomorrow.